Hi, everyone. I'm Karine Benguilad from Brought to You by the Letter K, and today I'm proud to be presenting on Terrain the perfect blog post template. So I am a content marketer, freelance writer, and I do all things blogs and articles, and I'm really passionate about writing great content. So I'm thrilled to be presenting this to you guys today. And if you have any questions, I have links at the end to where you can find me and reach out. So let's get started. So first I'm going to go through the template and show you kind of why they're all color-coded and what each section goes through. And then for each example that I'm going to go through, we'll dive into, what I would put in each section for the actual example that I'm going to show you that's live. So the first is the title. So these are just meant to be, this template is meant to be just a place where you jot down your ideas. So, a working title or any title ideas that you have in the intro, like how are you going to intro the topic, what to expect, why this is important. And then for each point, whether it's 1 point, whether it's 2 points, whether it's 10 points, you're going to have a setup, you're going to use an example, and then you're going to wrap up that point with a takeaway or a lesson. Then, of course, there's going to be a conclusion. So you're going to possibly recap the information that you've put throughout the blog. You're going to post your final thoughts, and where and when appropriate, you're going to post a CTA. Now, for each point, here I just have 2 points, but again, you can have 1 point, you could have 10 points, it doesn't matter. For each point, it's really important to have graphics, whether that's images, videos, GIFs, research from authoritative sites, quotes from experts, whatever it is, you need at least one of those for each point to make it really impactful and show your authority and why your point is valid. So the first example, this is where the actual live blog post lives. But first, what I'm going to do is go through that template and show you what I would put. I'm going to reverse engineer the template and show you what I would put. So first, this blog is about holiday calendars for e-commerce. So I'm just going to jot that down because that's the central idea of the blog post. So it's not necessarily the actual title yet, but it's just the idea. Then in the intro, I'm going to prepare for the holidays, why it's important for e-commerce, list a couple of examples of holidays. Then in the first point, the setup is going to be, so basically the holidays, meaning October, November, December. So there's 3 actual points in this blog post, but the first one is going to be October. So why October is important. And then Black Friday month, which is November, why that's important for e-commerce brands and so forth. So I'm not going to go through the December example, but again, this is just broad brushstrokes to show you how this template kind of works. And then in the conclusion, the final thought is just going to be like that I want to stress that the holidays isn't just about promoting your products, like especially because there's Black Friday and Cyber Monday. You don't want to just push your products. You also want to have fun and you want to celebrate. That's what the holidays are about. And that's what your messaging should be. So now you see how everything's color coded. So in the screenshots that I'm about to show, sorry, I forgot, I forgot about the next section. So in the first point, the graphic that I'm going to show is an October calendar. And then I'm going to highlight, the different holidays for October. And then the second point, November calendar. The third point would have been December calendar. So the title ended up being Marketing Calendars for 2018's Holiday, E-commerce, Social, and Sales. So again, on the left side of the screen, you'll see like the color-coded section. So this shows you like what the title ends up being. And then again, on the left side, this is the intro. So you'll see here how we introed it. We, if you want to skip ahead, Shopify does this a lot. They, allow you to skip ahead because a lot of the blog posts are actually really long. So this is a great way to get people to get to the meat that is most important to them. Then the first point, like I said, the October. So it's just a bit of an intro. And then the graphic that we used was basically like the 2018 calendar. So you'll see it's very straightforward. It's an October calendar. And for each day, we highlight World Mental Health Day, Queen's Birthday and Labor Day in Australia, Thanksgiving in Canada, all of those things. There's obviously more, but you can't see it in the screenshot. And similarly for November, a little intro and then the calendar for the graphic. So this is a pretty short and sweet blog. I think it clocks in at about 5 minutes to read it. But so it just goes to show that not all the examples I'm going to share are really long and thousands of words. As long as you have these different elements, your blog post, whether it clocks in at a few hundred words or whether it clocks in at a few thousand words, it'll be really good and meaty for your audience. And then, of course, the conclusion. So again, final thought, recap, all of that kind of stuff. So that's basically the format that we're going to go through. And so the second example, again, this is where the article lives. And again, if you want to see these slides, feel free to reach out, or perhaps Karine will be able to post a link to get the slide deck. So again, working title, we're talking about Halloween campaigns for e-commerce brands. So the gist of it is that I'm going to scour the internet, come up with some really cool Halloween campaigns that e-commerce brands did, and go through them. So why Halloween is an important holiday, I'm going to use stats on how much, sorry about that. I'm going to use stats on how much people spend on Halloween to just reinforce that point. Then for the first point, I'm going to use Koala Mattress as an example. What they did, they post Easter eggs, plus a competition online, the takeaways, the engagement that they got, and it has to be easy enough for people to get the gist of it. The second example is from Tesco, only 2 spooker markets. That's actually a really funny word to say out loud. What they do, and the takeaway is that not all the stores have this, so it makes it more fun for the audience. And again, so there were way more Halloween examples. Again, I'm just picking 2 for the sake of brevity. A recap and a final thought. Connect with customers in unexpected ways. There are no rules for Halloween. That's the point of Halloween, so have fun. In terms of the graphics, so I'm going to share screenshots from Koala site and social media. And yeah, so that's the title that we came up with. So 10 Halloween marketing campaigns from wickedly profitable e-commerce brands. And you'll see the graphic is really perfect. So again, this is just the intro. So you'll see, I linked to Statista, which is a great site for stats of all kinds. And for all over the world too, by the way. And just kind of run through that example. The graphic is based on some of the information we pulled out. The Koala mattress example. So again, there's an intro to it. There's a screenshot of the homepage. There's more screenshots from their website and more explanation about why this is good. And then screenshots from their social media accounts so that you can see that there was an actual competition element, like it wasn't just for shits and giggles, pardon my French. And then the last example, so I went from the first to the last, is Tesco. And so for this one, the graphic was we embedded the actual video that they have. So we embedded the video in the blog post, which is great. If you can actually, I don't think I've come across any blogs where you can't embed a video. So definitely embed instead of linking out, because you want to keep the reader on the page. I know for email, like I use Active Campaign, that doesn't let me do it. So in those instances, it's cool to link out. But for a blog, always try to embed. It's way easier. So again, little intro, little bit of info about what they do, set up the points, and then the conclusion for the whole blog is basically like the final thoughts, recapping, you know, make sure that you partake in Halloween because everybody loves Halloween, assuming you're in a country that celebrates it, and yeah, have fun with it. So the third example is this one. So it's a piece that I ghost wrote, and that appeared by one of LinkedIn's employees. The working title, so we're talking about sales professionals asking questions and why that's important. In the intro, I'm gonna talk about an HBR article that talks about the power of questions. Asking the right questions surprisingly doesn't come naturally to some or even most of the people. And so this is why it's important to even just learn how to ask the right questions if it doesn't come naturally to you. So you'll notice that the setup of this article is also a little bit different. So the first point is talking about cooperative and competitive conversations. So there's two different types of conversations, but then within those, there's 4 different subtypes of questions that you can ask. So I'm going to go through those. And then in the second point, I'm going to talk about sharing too much versus not enough. And when it comes to answering questions when you're on the reverse end. Then to wrap up, I found a really cool quote from Dale Carnegie about questions and answers. And the CTA for this was to subscribe to the sales blog. So there's no graphics, you'll notice in this article. Instead, what I do is I use research from authoritative sites, which is the HBR article that I link to, and same with the quotes from the experts. So this is the title. This is the intro. So you'll see the section in blue is basically where it links to the HBR article. And then I take a quote from that to kind of pull my point through. And then in the first section, I use the same article throughout, but I link to the authors of the HBR article for even more authority. And then I keep going for the second point. And then in the end, you'll see like the quote that I used and how it, relates to asking questions and answering questions. But then the way that LinkedIn does, sorry, I lost my train of thought. The way that LinkedIn does their CTA is just, they make it, italics, which is cool, kind of differentiates that. And then there's a hyperlink to it. So what you can do with CTAs is you can have a standard CTA for all of your blogs if you want, like subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our blog RSS feed, Follow us on social media, like whatever that is. But if it's like a more in-depth article, then, if you have like gated content that, kind of relates, that could be the CTA. And the final example. So this one is not something that I've written. So I wanted to show you that my examples are not the only examples out there. But it's from Content Marketing Institute, from one of their editors. And it's a great article. And it's basically, so now I'm reverse engineering something that I had nothing to do with. It's about email newsletter ideas that will increase open and click rates, right? So if you have an email newsletter, this is a great blog post to read, but that's the general idea of it. So in the intro, we're going to talk about campaign monitor stats. We're going to talk about why having an email list is important and why it's valuable, and how to get those interested in your brand to open emails. The first point, she's got several points listed, but the first point, we're going to talk about the goal of email newsletters to build a relationship. And then the example is going to be the skim. And then the takeaway is that no clicks are needed in your newsletter. And you'll see what I mean by that later. In the second point, we're going to talk about making it easy for subscribers to know the email is from you. So we're talking about the subject line. We're going to show how, with the example, we're going to show screenshots of how consistency can do that really well. And again, I just said that part. So, and then in the final thoughts, you've spent the time and possibly money on your newsletter. So your biggest goal should be to get your subscribers to open them and actually read them and enjoy them. The first point, we're going to have screenshots from the skim. And the second point, I deleted that by accident. So this is the intro and the title. So 6 email newsletter ideas for more opens, clicks, and shares. So this is actually a great article. If you've got a newsletter, I highly recommend reading it. And so you'll see what she does there. She kind of goes through it. She shares a stat, the 18% from Campaign Monitor that I mentioned. And then she keeps going with a couple of other stats, which are really cool. So the first point is don't require a click. So the gist of this is that you don't necessarily want people to leave your newsletter. You want them to have all the information they need inside the newsletter. It used to be standard practice that you wanted people to go back to your website, but that just makes people work. And since most people are reading newsletters from their phone, just make it easy for them, give them the information that they wanted. And that's basically the gist of this section. So this is actually a screenshot that they put in the blog post. So even though it just looks like text, it's a screenshot from the skim. And then the second point, you'll see there's 2 screenshots of the emails and you'll see the consistency. So the second screenshot at the bottom there, you'll see is from the Morning Brew. And so their subject lines always start with little emoji cup of coffee, which is super cute. Whereas the Hustle, which is on top, also uses emojis, but they're different. And I guess they, might have to do with the subject of each newsletter, which is cool. But when you filter them for all the Hustle or all the Morning Brews, you can see the consistency and it's pretty easy to spot, okay, this is the Morning Brew email or whatever the case is, right? And then final thought, reflect before you hit send. So, you've invested time and resources to creating newsletters, get people to click and make it easy for them. Give them the content that they're looking for. So that's it. That's as simple as it is. So like I said, some of these blog posts are really long, some of them are really short. It doesn't matter the length, as long as you have the different elements, the intro, the setup, an example to solidify your point, whether you're using a graphic, whether you're using statistics, whether you're using a quote, incorporating all of that with each of your points, and then having a solid conclusion, which is either a recap or a final thought, or and possibly has a CTA. That's what really makes a good, solid blog post. So that's it, folks. It's not that complicated. And having the template, which you can have access to, makes it easy, because then you can just jot down each idea that you have in bullet form. And that way, when you go to write it, you've kind of already got the outline set up for yourself. So with that being said, here comes the obligatory sales part. I'm launching a content planning course for intros and beginners, and it's going to be approximately $37. So I'm offering a $5 coupon. And the code is C is for coupon, because if you know my brand, you know that that's appropriate. The title is a working title. I still don't have anything. It's in my little template. But I promise it will have a proper title. But if you want to sign up ahead of time for the course, you can use C is for coupon as the code to get $5 off. And once it launches towards the end of April, beginning May, you'll have first crack at it. So it'll be basically an easy step-by-step content planning course broken down for beginners and intermediates. And I hope you'll sign up for it. So if you have any questions, this is where you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and email. And it was a pleasure. So I hope you enjoy writing content a little bit more now that I've broken it down into a template. So thanks for having me, Karine.
Yay, Karine, thank you so much. Super, super excited. Just a note for everybody listening in. If you're tuning in live, we're gonna have the links to everything that Karine mentioned in the chat. We'll be popping them in right now. And we do have a wait list for Karine's course up on Terrain right now. So you should be able to go in and register for it. Use the link that we put in the chat. You won't be able to find it in search because the current name is going to be Karine's working title course. So you should be able to find it in there. But if you don't, just hit us up at support and we'll get you set up.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karine.
Pleasure.